Good evening, everyone. Let me start the class today. First thing first, is my audio clear and is the screen visible? Clear, yes. Right. Let me go with the thing that I discussed. I was discussing about the so-called how the system of governance has emerged. We were discussing this. I said that in order to understand the present status, you should know what was the evolutionary process, and we have seen how the structure of the government has changed from an individual to a hierarchical organization today, along with not only government agencies, but you have non-governmental agencies also these days, such as NGOs, self-help groups, civil societies. Still, you can mention some NGOs, civil societies, SHGs, right? You can mention these things. Government, you have legislative body, executive body, judicial body. Along with this, you have some private organizations also which can deliver some goods, right? This is how the structure of administration is present. Now, system of governance, what is this? The needs of governance or the demands of governance also changed. In the earlier days, it was just like protection of basic rights, protection of basic rights of individuals. But today, it has moved to complex structure or complex needs, where the needs of the people are going to differ based on section to section, community. Particularly, the government has to focus on the vulnerable sections in the community, right? Right. Vulnerable sections of the community. Now, what does that mean? Vulnerable sections of the community. I said the demands of vulnerable sections of community, such as SCs, STs, women, children, disabled, elderly, and then you have LGBT communities, right? And then you have certain economically poor sections, and then you have educationally poor sections, right? Apart from the basic things, you also have these persons. So this is the administration, or this is the governance. Now, this is the present status. The present status is not only the structure of a government has changed, but the demands of the governance has also changed. I said governance is nothing but delivery of goods and services to the people, right? Governance is delivery of goods and services to the people to meet the demands of the people. Whatever the function that is done, that is called governance, and it is no more this thing called government agencies which are playing a crucial role. You have other players also in this group, right? Apart from that, let us also look what is the present status at the government level. You have seen the number of players has increased, that is government, non-government, civil societies, and the number of watchdogs have also increased, starting with the courts, CVCs, CBIs, right? Central Vigilance Commission, CBIs, right? And then you have COG mechanisms also. And the most important watchdog today is press, which was earlier just restricted to the so-called printing press. Now today it has moved beyond printing press and broadcasting, and it included one more thing called your social media. These are the players, and this is the level of, or the present status is in the government. It is no more one organization, but you have many players who are playing a crucial role in this service delivery. This is first thing. And apart from government, you also have private players. Now let us look at the so-called changes in the governance or demands of governance. Now, right from Kautilya time, remember this. Kautilya always said, I said that Indian administration, or the basic roots of administration in India, has been traced back to Kautilya Satsastra, right? In Kautilya Satsastra, Kautilya clearly says that a good ruler is one who meets the demands of his subjects. Now he says that in the happiness of the subjects alone, the happiness of the king lies, right? This is what Machiavelli said, which means, right, in the happiness of the subjects alone does the happiness of king's life or king's life, right? This is the thing. Now, what does this mean? This means right from ancient period itself, not from the new trend, right from ancient times itself, the kings had one thing to deliver, that is happiness to the subjects, happiness to the people. Until and unless people are not satisfied, the governance of the kingdom will not be flourishing. So they gave importance. So there is no doubt that all these kings have played a crucial role or gave much importance to governance, which is citizens' welfare governance. Citizens' welfare is not a new concept. Citizens' welfare is present right from the ancient times in the Indian context. Now, I am speaking about India, leave about Western world, because we are more bothered about Indian administration now, the last two chapters. Now, citizens' welfare, it has been mentioned in the treatise of Arthashastra itself. Now, the same thing was followed by every king, right? Right from the ancient times, if you look at Buddha's concept of administration, Buddha also says that the king has to always ensure that the people are living in a decent society where everyone will be having their needs to be met. So Buddha always said that, and then slowly you move to Guptas, where they have again given importance to the so-called citizens' welfare. So until your ancient times, all the rule was made on Arthashastra, and Arthashastra clearly said that in the happiness of the subjects alone, the happiness of the king lies. So there is no doubt, I repeat, there is no doubt right from ancient times until the modern times that governance exists only for doing the welfare for citizens. Welfare is the prime motto or the core principle around which the governance revolved right from the ancient times. Now, what is the difference here? As we move from this area to this area, right? As we move from this area to this area, why it has become so complicated, or why what is the demand that has been changed? Everyone accepted that welfare of the people is important. Now, what is that thing which has changed? If you look over the years, right, from ancient times to modern times in Indian history, in the ancient times until the arrival of the Delhi Sultanates, after Delhi Sultanates, you see Mughals, the administrative structure was centralized and it was functioned in a centralized fashion. It is continuing even today. I am not speaking about administrative structure. I am speaking about the governance demands of people. Now look at this. After colonization, after the British has left India, India was left in a dire circumstance that is called economically, we are not that stable. We are not that stable. Politically, if you look at Indian structure, politically, we always followed the same model which the colonial masters has laid to us. If you look at the structure of political administration, the constitutional structure, more or less we have taken it from the so-called 1935 Act, right? 1935 Act plus democracy is nothing but your constitution, right? Or else 1935 Act provisions were reflected in constitution. Politically, we didn't change much. Politically, it is more or less the same thing. But the problem has come on the economic side. Why the problem has arrived on the economic side? The problem is India during the time of colony or after these colonial masters have left during the time of independence, economically we were totally destroyed. And this destruction of economy by the colonial masters have a very profound influence on meeting the welfare objectives of the state. Now the welfare objectives of the states were relegated to the background. What do I say relegated to the background? They were given second importance. The reason is, though the state has adopted socialistic measures in the Jawaharlal Nehru, during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru said that we want a socialist government, and they have went with socialist principles. But the only problem is Indian government doesn't have that money to establish or to go for welfare activities. As a result, Jawaharlal Nehru thought that we should have a centralized administration where we will be giving more importance to modern industries, and they went with heavy industrialization rather than focusing on the primary sector and the primary sector particularly. It was only in the second 5-year plan they started focusing on agriculture. If you look at it, until 1980s, India's growth rate was very, very less. That is called Hindu growth rate, that you might be knowing. Because of this, even until during the times of Indira Gandhi, if you look at the position of India, India doesn't have even some proper food grains to eat, right? Indians doesn't have food grains. In order to overcome this problem, Indira Gandhi went with the so-called Green Revolution. Slowly, until 1990s, our economic growth was very stagnant. If you look at 1960s and 1970s, India's economy has hit very hard. For example, because of the subsequent wars, we have faced a war in 1948, we have faced a war in 1962, you have faced a war in 1965, and then in 1972, you immediately had a war. Because of the continuous wars, the economic resources of the country were totally drained. And India was in a position where it couldn't meet even its basic resources or basic minimum needs. As a result, we were highly dependent on other countries. And the trend continued until 1990s, till we opened up the so-called our economy to the LPG reforms. So if you look right from independence, on one side, politically, you are continuing the same structure of the British. On the other side, economically, you are very, very poor. Though the objective was to do welfare state, or to go with the welfare objective, or to distribute resources to the people, but it couldn't sustain over a period of time. The reason is because of the poor economy. Now, everything was fine. After things started changing only when Indira Gandhi has come and she started Green Revolution, but it has always some negative consequences also. But let us look on the brighter side. At least India was in a position to meet its food grain requirement. And slowly we started developing. By the time of 1990, we even do not have foreign resources. As a result, forex reserves, as a result, we opened up our economy. Until this point of time, from 1947 until 1991, India followed socialistic principle with the prime objective of welfare of the citizens. However, Indians administration couldn't meet the requirement given the poor economic status of the country, and the consequences are the main reasons for this economic drain is again the subsequent wars, right, that we have seen. After this, 1991 LPG reforms has taken place and India started opening up its economy. I am saying about what is the change that you observe in the so-called second line, that is called system of governance. Though the objective was a very great objective, but that couldn't sustain in India because of that, the so-called poor economic growth. Now let us look at other side. That is after 1991 reforms. After 1991 reforms, though we started showing some growth in economic terms, India started showing or overcoming the Hindu rate growth, right? After LPG reforms. Now growth was visible. But the problem that was occurred after 1991 is one thing called socialism has given rise to slowly the so-called capitalism. Socialism welfare state. State used to look at it was like a nanny, right? It used to look after the people. Now, at that point of time, we do not have money, so socialism doesn't work or welfare activities doesn't work. As a result, governance couldn't reach to the bottommost level. That is why, if we look at the Indian scenario, left-wing extremism, it started way back during independence and it reached its zenith by 1990s. That is Maoism. Look at Northeast insurgency. Look at Jammu Kashmir issue. All the insurgencies or all the disorders in the society of India has seen during this phase, that is during the socialistic phase itself. On one side, in the Jawaharlal Nehru was very liberal and he promoted or he has given freedom to all the groups. As a result, Maoism started rising, Northeast insurgency started rising, Jammu Kashmir insurgency started rising. By 1990s, almost everything was risen and if the internal security of the country was challenged. Now, why this internal security was challenged? Because of the developmental process itself. Development has not reached the common man or the welfare measures has not reached the common man. This clearly shows that the governance structure in India has failed until 1990s. As a result, all these things were raised, right? You might be studying in internal security. What are the reasons for the so-called rise of Naxalism? What are the reasons for Northeast insurgency? They have only one root. The root is that welfare or governance is far away from the people. As a result, you couldn't sustain that development, or you couldn't see, or people couldn't see that development at the grassroots level. Now, after 1990s, government thought that yes, we have to change our policy, and we have changed that policy. That is completely fine. But what happened here is slowly socialism started giving rise to capitalism. Now, by 1995, there was at the world level, you have Washington Consensus, which has spoken about opening up the economy in all spheres and there should be no limitations on free trade. Now, India government was forced to accept this Washington Consensus. As a result, the debate started now whether this government should focus on the welfare of the people or should go for total opening of the economy. This was the first challenge in the present. I am speaking what is the present status of governance. The present status has its roots way back in this 1995 Washington consensus saying that this is the first dilemmas in administration, problems in administration. This is the first dilemma. Development is necessary, that everyone knows, but how this development has to be? Should it be citizen centric or should it be market centric? That was the first dilemma which has arisen in the governance structure. Now the second thing which has arisen is because of this capitalism. Because of this capitalism, we have seen growth improving. This is very good sign that slowly growth started improving and we have moved away. But at the same time, it started one thing called non-inclusive growth. Non-inclusive growth, or the growth was just limited to few hands. Growth was just limited to few hands. As a result, what happened, as a result, inequality started rising in the economy. This is again the drawback in the growth model, or this is again the problem in the economy. Now, rich is becoming rich and poor is becoming poor. This is one division. As a result, social cohesion is missing in the country. This is the second problem of governance today. Social cohesion is there. There are certain sections which are very rich. There are certain sections which are very poor. This is the second thing. The third problem which has again risen after this 1995 reforms is your growth rate was increased, but inclusive growth was not happened. Then again the debate of growth not leading to inclusiveness has witnessed, and there is one thing, growth was not leading to development. This is another debate which started in India. Though you are economically growing, but development is not seen. What is the difference between growth and development? You might have studied in economy. Growth is a quantitative tool. Like it is just like numbers, GDP, national income, right? These are the quantitative terms. GDP, the total value of goods and services produced within the economy within a specific period of time. That is for GDP, right? Total value of goods and services. What is the value of goods and services is improving, but the development is not happening. Development is qualitative aspect of life, not quantitative. Qualitative means whether that growth is promoting the qualitative aspects of human beings, such as the welfare of human beings in education, in health, right? In standard of living, whether it is improving or not, this division has happened. So this is the present status. Growth is disassociated with development. Now, development, you know, that is why Human Development Index was formed, right? The parameters of Human Development Index, remember. What are the parameters? You have education, you have health, standard of living, right? So Human Development Index parameters were very, very less. Now the government started focusing, as the government started focusing on growth to development, again one more issue has arisen, that is development is at the cost of environment. We are not concentrating on environment, though we are performing very good in growth. As a result, then the next problem has arisen, that is called sustainable development issue. This is another problem that we see in governance today. Though there is growth, it is not inclusive. Though there is growth, it is not development. It is not turning into development. Though there is development, it is not going to be sustainable development. Now, slowly again, as the government started on development or focusing on development, then again one issue has started rising, that government is not focusing on the so-called happiness of the people. Now, unlike your development, which is a qualitative tool, happiness is something which is intangible asset, which cannot be measured, right? The ultimate goal of human beings and the ultimate goal of development should lead to happiness of the people. But slowly we started seeing growth, but that is not leading to development. Even if in some areas, even if it is leading to development, it is not leading to happiness. For example, green revolution has caused good thing in some areas, that is, it has made people in some areas very rich, like Punjab, Haryana, and the East Godavari and West Godavari Delta areas, right? But people were not happy because they had seen that side effects of green revolution. As a result, today, whatever the growth is there, either it is not going to be inclusive, either not, that is not going to lead to development. If it is leading to development, it is not leading to sustainable development. Even that development is not leading to the so-called happiness. Now, this is the biggest problem in governance today. This is the second thing that I wanted to say. So the first thing is the present status. I am speaking about the present status of governance. The present status is you have in the governance phase. I am not speaking about the structural phase. In the governance phase, I said in the structural phase, we already discussed the number of players in the governance has increased. Not only government, but there are some other factors who are playing a crucial role. That is the present status. I will come to the problems again, but that is the present status. Now, if you look at the demands after 1991, it has changed, because the first dilemma of the government started to think about whether it should give priority to the welfare objective or it should think about market driven economy. in Washington consensus, government was pushed to go for reforms. As a result, we started seeing growth, but that growth was not inclusive. As a result, again, inequalities has risen and social cohesion was missing. Today, if you look at the society itself is divided. This is the second most important problem that you are seeing in the governance. Now, these are the three things. That is, development is not there. If development is not there, sustainable development. So these are the issues. So these are the problems that you see in governance today at the governance level. As a result of lack of social cohesion, because of this lack of social cohesion, there was divisions in society. Today, if you look at society is based on religion, based on caste, based on community, based on race, based on sex, right? All these things, people were divided, unlike the earlier days. As a result, this is another problem in governance. If you are giving certain sections some affirmative actions, or if you are showing some affirmative actions on certain sections, immediately the other section rises why you are giving for them. So state is in dilemma whether to give it to them or whether to withdraw from them. So that is the biggest dilemma that governance is facing. And another issue that you find in governance is that the people's demand started increasing. On one side, people are giving more importance to their rights. They say that my rights should be not broken by the state. On the other side, state has the objective of welfareism. For example, this is clearly seen in Aadhaar, right? The debate of Aadhaar, whether Aadhaar data should be linked or whether Aadhaar should collect the information of the people or not. Then they went to Puttaswamy case, right to privacy. So the demand of the people is that my rights should not be taken away, but government is saying that we have welfare measures. As a result, we have every right to take away the to take the data of people. Now this is another debate, whether rights has to be given priority over welfareism or welfare activities has given to be important over rights. For example, Puttaswamy case, that is what I am saying, right to privacy. Now people's demand was started increasing, and again this people's demand was segregated or divided, because the communities which were very well off, they are focusing on the so-called privacy, whereas the poor sections of the community, they are not bothered about privacy, they are rather bothered about welfareistic measures. This is the another thing that you see in the changes in the structure. Speaking further, so I said rights and states. Now if you look after 1991, I said that economic reforms has taken place. At the same time, look at the political structural changes that has happened after 1991. It was through the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts that Government of India launched the local governance. This added, the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment added one more thing to your governance, and that is called, the local bodies. As a result, people started engaging in administration. So today, the administration is no more government centric, rather it is citizen centric. It is democratic decentralization. It is not unlike your olden days. I said, remember before 1991, the structure was still centralized structure, where the power used to come from the center to the states, right? But today, the structure was not this. You have one more structure in the political administration, that is called local governance. Because of the direct involvement of the citizens, then the challenges for the government started increasing. That is, government wanted to perform, otherwise people are going to see it and people are becoming actively engaged in government activities. As a result, today the governance has to be very vigilant. So I say, so these are the things that you can think on. What are the things that I said? The present day status of government. Status at government structure, that is at the top one, and at governance structure. How to think on. Structure itself was changed and it has given rise to many structures. It is not only government today. I said non-governmental agencies as present, and after 73rd 74th constitutional amendment you have local governance where people started playing a crucial role. As a result, government today is nothing but people's government. And then there are some vigilants or watchdogs, right? This is what is present. On the other side, look at the governance issues. The present day status is, on one side there are some ethical issues such as whether government should focus on welfare or whether it should open up the economy. The second one is this governance after 1991, after you have opened, there is rich and poor divide. Society got bifurcated into many communities. And then because of this bifurcation of the society, government challenges increased. If you give priority to one, then other sections are going to get alienated or they are going to rise agitations. Now this is a thing. And then though you have performed economically very well, but that growth which you have seen, that is the double digit growth that India has performed, it didn't translate into inclusive growth, it didn't translate into development, it didn't translate into sustainable development, it didn't translate into happiness. So today the society is like this. Now again, one more thing that you have to observe is, because of the increase of the rich, they started entering into the political process and they started capturing the so-called governance structures, government institutions. If you look at the parliament, if you have seen today newspaper, there was one good news in Goa, right? I'll tell you that. See, parliament. In parliament, slowly, what is the change that you see is, you see right from independence, there were some dedicated leaders who has the will to do something for the people. But over a period of time, politics has become criminalization of politics. Criminals started entering into politics and they started capturing the legislative bodies. As a result, the institution itself started degrading. That is, the legislative institutions itself started degrading. Look at the executive. Legislature, anyways, I said criminalization of politics has happened, and because of this, you have the problem called the structure is suffering. On the other side, okay, I'll come to this point. But remember this is one thing where the rich people started capturing power, and you have one thing called crony capitalism, where the favors are being done by the political parties to the rich. As a result, rich is becoming rich and poor is becoming poor. So you can write that. And then these are the present status. This is a present status. And the next status is, one most important thing that has seen in governance is the advancement of information, communication and technology. Now, with the initiation of ICT in governance, then governance structure itself has transformed totally, right? Today, ICT is playing a crucial role and people are becoming well aware. So ICT challenges are also there. Along with this, ICT has shown some solutions to the problems also. Now, this is the status. If they ask the status, think on these lines. You can think about government structure, right? You can think about governance requirements or the objectives of the people or the demands of the people, how the society started transforming. Come with the economic aspects, how the society has transformed. Come with the societal aspects such as social cohesion is not there. As a result, if you are going, or if the government wants to favor one person, the other person is going to show automatically a resentment. And then think about the environmental aspects. Environment is degrading because of your poor ill-planned economic progress. So these are the things. Now, because of this, what are the challenges? This is the status. Now, what is the problems of this? Problems. Look at the problems. I said the problem, this is the status, right? Status at government level, at the governance level. Think in these lines. Status, whatever the issues that you find in the status, you will find the same thing in problems also. Ide structure problems kuda cheptayi. Let us look at this. For example, what are the present day? I have discussed what is the present day status. Now I am discussing about what are the problems in governance. The problems is, first thing is this institution that is called the legislature, the executive, and the judicial thing itself. Now, if you look at the legislature, I said India slowly moved. Unlike our first generation leaders, if you look at the present day leaders, criminalization of politics was seen. So the first drawback or the first problem in the government is criminalization of politics at the legislative side. Look at the executive. Now, executive, they were still living in ivory towers. They are still having this apathetic attitude. Right? You can write about that these executives or the bureaucrats are not following the so-called civil servant values, foundational values of civil service. You link this here, right? Today, if you look, unlike the first generation leaders or first generation bureaucrats, if you look at the present day bureaucrats, it is creating executive lacks this the so-called fundamental values for civil services. Now, let us look at the judiciary again. The biggest problem with the judiciary structure is poor criminal justice system in the country. What is criminal justice system includes? It includes the police, the investigative departments, it includes prisons, it includes the courts. Right? Justice system is very, very poor. As a result, now the foundations of the government itself has become very weak today. This is the present day status. So the problem is not with the bureaucrats itself. It has a problem with the legislature. It has problem with judiciary also. Adding to this, you have the problem not only with this, and you know that justice system increase in the number of cases and the poor vacancies in the court, right? You can write the problems here. Vacancies in the filling of the so-called judges and pending cases in both High Court and Supreme Court and the divisional courts, prisons, overcrowded prisons, police, poor investigation or huge corruption in the system. I'll come to the corruption aspect now. Now, these three things are present. This is the first problem. Legislature, executive, the three organs have the problem. Now, custodial deaths, yes, custodial deaths is the biggest thing. Now, look at this. Not only these government organizations has the problem, but you have the problem with also the so-called non-governmental organizations that I discussed. NGOs, many NGOs, though they are helping the cause, but many NGOs are trying to destabilize